most common reasons why owner-operators fail and don't make it. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Make Money Trucking. So I'm going to be going over some reasons and some facts as to why most or a lot of owner-operators end up failing and not making it, and what's the most common reasons and what I've seen. Now, this is just from my experience. I've been in this industry for about 10 years, and I've been an owner-operator for about 7 or 8 years of that. So I've definitely seen my fair share of guys get into this and not make it, and then get right back out of it. And then I've also seen guys start just like I did, and now they've got, multi-million-dollar companies, 20, 30 trucks, and have just blown up and gotten huge as well. So there's many different reasons for this. So I'm going to be, going over there's probably, about 3 or 4 different reasons and factors that go into play. And as always, like I say in a lot of my videos, there's gonna be many different factors. Not everybody's situation or scenario is going to be the same, and obviously there's going to be some things that I don't cover on here. So basically, you're just going to have to bear with me and kind of, understand that there's going to be some things I'm not going to cover that also might be factors as well. So the number one biggest reason, the biggest thing that causes owner-operators to fail is not being smart with their money and not saving their money. And what I mean by that is a lot of times guys will get into becoming or being an owner-operator, and they'll get those first couple paychecks or whatnot, and then they'll just go and they just won't be able to manage their money. So they'll make like a $5,000 paycheck in a week, and then they'll go and blow it. They'll go buy, a new boat, an ATV, a bigger TV, all this and that. And I'm not against, spoiling yourself, but when you're first starting out, you need to be saving your money, and you need to have, good, money management and good self-control, really. And just because you're making some of those big paychecks at first, you got to save that, because it's not always going to be that way. You might have some slow weeks. So that's the biggest thing and reason that I see is guys just aren't responsible with their money. They're just not good at saving their money. If you make $5,000, probably 1,000 to 1,500 of that is going to go towards your expenses, depending on how many expenses you have. And then the other 2,000 to 3,000, maybe take 1,000 or 1,500 of that, and then save as much as you can, especially when you're first starting out. So the second reason kind of goes along with the first reason is when you first become an owner-operator, you need to hit the ground running. I mean, you need to hit the ground hard, and you need to work as much as you can for as long as you can. So when you first start out, like for me, for example, when I first became an owner-operator, I think I worked, I burned my 70 hours a week every week for the first 3 or 4 months. And then I finally ended up taking a little break from working. I didn't take a break from working, but I took a break from working, 70 hours a week. So I was working 6 days a week. And then it wasn't until like 3 or 4 months that I actually, started taking, my 2 days off a week. And then I might have took an extra day here or there. So when you first start out and you get in the rhythm of things and you start running, you need to take advantage of that time. Run as hard as you can for as long as you can, whether it's a month or 6 months, because that you need to get that time in and be able to save that money. I think I was able to save about my first few months. I think I didn't stop until I had about $25,000 in the bank, set aside from my personal money. So within those first 3 to 4 months, I was able to put back about $25,000 into a savings account, and that's when I kind of was able to kind of take a breath and say, okay, I'm good. I've got a good bankroll going. And especially if a lot of you guys are looking at starting out with not a huge bankroll, like with a little bit less than that $15,000 to $20,000 in your bank account that we talk about. All right, so another reason is so we went over not being smart with our money, not being able to save their money. Then we said not working as much as you can when you first start out. And then the next thing is not willing to be flexible or work wherever the work is. And this is, I'm a local guy, so I don't like working out of town or over the road. But there's definitely been situations where, in my state, they might not have a lot of work, but they might say, hey, go to this other area, Texas, Wyoming, North Dakota. We have a lot of work up there, so go up there and work. So basically, when you're first starting out, you got to be flexible, because what you're trying to do is when you first start out, you're trying to work as much as possible and save up as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time. So if what you're doing or what you're comfortable with doing may not be making all the money, so you might need to transition to maybe another area or maybe another type of work. Like, say for instance, if you're hauling a side dump, for a construction company, they might need you to pull a belly dump or something along those lines. Or if you work for a company that has flatbed and they say, hey, we've got some reefer trailers, you may not want to change because you're getting used to the flatbed thing, but then you want to do reefer, and so on and so forth. So you got to be flexible, and that's where I see a lot of guys not making, because they're not willing to be flexible. And at least at first, maybe do it for the first 6 months or a year, and then be flexible for that first year. And then after that, then you could kind of put your foot down and say, no, I want to stick with what I'm doing. And then another reason I see guys, fail is they're not willing to work on their truck and get their hands a little dirty. Now, I made a couple videos about, do you need to be mechanically inclined to be an owner-operator? And the answer is no, but it definitely does help you and gives you a huge advantage. If you've got a very basic set of tools, you don't need very expensive tools, just a decent socket and wrench set. We're talking, you spending a couple $100s at Harbor Freight to get you a very good amount of tools that will do the job. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If you can replace your own alternator or starter, the part maybe say the part's $300. Well, a dealership may end up trying to charge you about $1,000 for that. So you would have just saved about $700. Plus, you're still gonna have the downtime, and the dealer might actually hold your truck for a couple days as well. So then you're down for a couple more days, where if you did it yourself, you probably do it in one afternoon, or maybe the entire day. You're only down for one day, and then you've saved a day or two of downtime, and then you probably saved about $700. So that's where I see a lot of guys, unfortunately, they don't know how to work on their trucks, so they're at the mercy of the dealerships, and they take the truck to the dealership, and not only does the dealership fearmonger them into replacing a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be replaced, they also, some dealerships don't care about getting you in fast. So you may be sitting for a few days up to a week, if not many weeks. So that's just lost revenue. So that's another, I actually know personally of a guy that pretty much that happened to him. He had a small problem with his truck. He took it into the dealer, and he basically, they kind of fearmongered him into this and that, this looks bad, this doesn't look good, we should place this. And he ended up doing that, and then okaying those repairs. And then after he okayed the repairs, not only did they, turn maybe $1,000 job into like $5,000 or $6,000, well, then they kind of held his truck for like 3 or 4 weeks because they couldn't get it in fast enough. And once they did one thing, they kind of had to wait for parts to get another thing done. And he ended up, luckily, he just walked away from a lease to own type situation, which I don't advise getting into those lease to own situations. but he ended up walking away from the truck and losing a bunch of money. But it is what it is. So be willing to work on your truck. At least do the little things. You don't have to do the huge complicated things. And also don't take your truck to the dealership. Unless it's a brand new truck that's under warranty and you don't have any other option, find a small good mechanic. Don't always take your truck to the dealership, because they're used to these big fleet companies that just say yes and they just sign off on whatever invoices come across their desk. So they'll nickel and dime you for sure. So basically, also another reason where guys fail and don't make it is not having a plan where you're gonna go work. Don't go and buy a truck without a plan, or at least an idea of what you're going to do. I would do your research and kind of interview these companies. You can interview them just like they're going to interview you. Ask them questions. Ask if they need owner operators. Ask them, say, hey, if I've got this experience, if I got a truck, would you take me on? It doesn't hurt to ask. I've always asked companies that question, and sometimes companies are a little hesitant because a lot of guys are coming to them like, oh, I'm going to get a truck. And so, but you just got to be willing to, ask them, hey, do you have spaces open for owner operators? And a lot of times they say, yep, I'm always hiring, or they'll say no, and then you say, okay, cool, go to the next company. Get a good idea. Talk to some other drivers, that you're meeting at the truck stops, or, maybe friends of yours that work for the same company, or just other guys in the industry. Maybe get on Facebook and try to see if you can't find some guys that are, leased on to companies, ask them how they like it. So have a plan, do your research. Don't just buy a truck and not have a plan. You might get lucky, but a lot of guys fail because they end up buying a truck and they're still company drivers, and then they don't have a plan of where to go, and they end up just kind of like fading away, and then they can't afford to get the truck up and running because they didn't have the plan in the first place. This is one of the last ones. Basically, and right now in today's market, buying an overpriced truck, and that's going to lead to guys failing. All right, guys. So basically, buying an overpriced truck in this market, I've seen guys do this in the past. They buy some supercharger truck for like $40,000 or $50,000, and it's got 1 million to 1.5 million miles on it, and they were lied to about it having a motor overhauled. Because what you got to remember is that that chassis still has over 1 million miles. It doesn't matter if the motor's been rebuilt. That's the least of your problems. You're gonna have transmission, rear ends, wiring, suspension, all these other issues that start creeping up on you that are gonna kind of nickel and dime you like almost to death. And I've seen it happen to two guys I knew, on a regular basis. They bought these older trucks that had a lot of miles on them, and they thought because they were $40,000 they were getting a good deal. It ended up just it nickeled and dimed it to death. So that is another reason. And then so we've kind of gone over all the reasons that in my experience I've seen why owner operators typically fail. Not being able to save your money, not willing to be flexible, and not working as much as you possibly could be working. And then trying not working on your own truck if it's possible. Get your hands a little bit dirty. And then not having a plan where to go, and then buying an overpriced truck. And then I wanted to kind of throw in a little bit of an extra here. So if you get with a company and it isn't the greatest company, but you're making money, but maybe you're not making the amount of money that you want to be making, just stick it out. Hang in there for at least 6 months or a year. It doesn't hurt to just stay busy and hang in there. And so that would be another thing too, is guys fail because they're not willing to just work their butt off and just kind of hang in there. Don't hang in there forever, but definitely hang in there for a little while until you can start building up a little bit of a cash flow to go somewhere else. Don't keep jumping, just kind of hold steady where you're at. That's another big reason I see is guys pretty much just hop around so much because they don't like something, or because they might not be making the kind of money that they were hoping to make. And once you're established and you've got a good bank account, you can afford to do that. But at first, you just got to deal with it and just roll with the punches and just keep working your butt off. Now, obviously, if you're not making any money at all, obviously, transition over to another company or another situation. But if it's just not exactly what you're hoping for, just hang in there and just keep working at it. But yeah, guys, hopefully you found this helpful. And this is just from my personal experience, why most guys fail as owner-operators. And overall, it's, self-control and saving your money. A lot of guys get out there and they're making great money and they just burn through it faster. They spend it faster than they make it, and they see those big paychecks coming in and they just blow through it. And it's like, so they had everything, they had the perfect recipe, they had all the right things, but just because they couldn't manage their money, they ended up failing because they just spent their money faster than they made it. So that's an unfortunate thing. Definitely when you see a guy that he got onto a company, he's making good money and he just cannot save his money. He just wants to spend it faster and gets it. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Hopefully you find this informative, and leave some comments below of some situations that you might have known as well, some reasons why you've known some owner operators that have failed and why they failed. I'd like to see some discussion in the comments section, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks.